I mean, true, like data scientists, they're dealing with petabytes of data, right? We're not talking about a guy with a BI tool in a data warehouse. We're talking about petabytes of data. Those guys don't want to clean data. That's not their job description, right? There's very few people that want to be the data champion in organizations, like the CEOs. They don't even know they need a data champion. And hopefully, as one of the things, as we expand our scope and recognition in the industry, can help be champions for the establishment of that role in organizations, because it's just too important.
Yeah, it's incredible. So that was actually my next question. Internally, what do you see as, like, who's owning the data set, crossing the marketing, and you actually said that CRM and kind of rolls up to IT, but the first phase of the question is, one, who kind of owns that, and then two, how do you build that internal, almost like, need for governance with all of the different systems that you have? Like, Dory, have you had any experience in that?
I mean, I think to John's point about putting a dollar value against the penalty, right? So until you've got something that's kind of tangible for the C-level to say, like, yeah, this is a real problem if we don't do this and we don't align these systems. So that's been an assist, essentially, right? It's really helped us to validate that point. But as far as ownership of it, it's kind of, for us, everything as far as like our system structure, we don't do imports into Salesforce. We do everything through Marketo. Right. There's prospecting that occurs Salesforce into Marketo, but essentially everything flows from Marketo straight to Salesforce. So from that point of origination, we would need to claim ownership of like that. We would claim ownership of like who's responsible for it.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that. To answer your question too, I put it on the entire organization. So one of the things I've had an opportunity to speak at Dreamforce and other community-led conferences within the Salesforce ecosystem is about developing and sustaining a governance strategy and process based on several components. So identifying and or creating a center of excellence, like a governing team, communicating and documenting a release management strategy based on a deployment methodology of plan, build, test, deploy, and then the importance of design standards, which gets very subjective until you have an organization like RingLead. So the importance with having a governance strategy and process, in my opinion, is the first component of identifying or creating that center of excellence. One of the things I'm doing in my organization right now is I have what I'm referring to as a gate review team, right? And there are specific individuals across departments, cross-functionally, that have been identified as key stakeholders from a process perspective, from a data perspective, and then from a technology perspective. So each standard and custom object within my Salesforce org, I have created swim lanes in visualization documents in Visio to say, and this is something we did at a former organization, but we're going through that now at my current organization and Ryan and I have talked about this. Here's accounts. What does that process look like for marketing in terms of creating accounts? Do they have the permissions to do that? When can they create accounts? When can they edit accounts? Getting all the way down to field level security. What does that look like for development or fundraisers? What does that look like for the C-suite? And then going through that for every object. Then understanding where all the data sits. What are all the integrations? What does that entire landscape look like? And then understanding all the technologies that are enabling all of those processes in that built-out framework. I think once you create that sort of all-in approach, everybody's going to have a vested interest because there's 2 cents. It's going to be one. Everyone's going to have 2 cents in terms of understanding. From my department's perspective, based on me having this elevated role within this gate review team, this is why I think we should be having this conversation. That invokes collaboration. That invokes consideration. And from there, you start to see real momentum. So one of the last things I would say that supports that sort of approach is, I had a former CIO. I used to work for an organization called Cargill, which is the largest privately held organization in the U.S. I had a former CIO once tell me that IT as an organization were not revenue generators. So what does that mean? It means we exist to serve the business. So how do we serve the business? We serve the business by looping in stakeholders, cross departments, cross functions, to have a vested interest in what will ultimately be the source of truth for where your data sits. So I think governance, Jaime, is a significant conversation, and I've actually leveraged that experience and subject matter expertise as the backbone of my approach in my career in terms of what is the value I'm going to bring to my organization. It's about increased utilization of our investment in Salesforce, and it's about adoption. Yeah. The last thing I'll say, one of the things I had identified that gets right into what RingLead does a phenomenal job is, when I used to work for Cargill, we would have this phenomenal sales. I mean, we were an enterprise customer, 10,000 plus users, and you would walk by these shared alcoves, and you would see sales reps meeting with their sales leaders, and they would have Excel pulled up on the screen when all their data was in Salesforce. So, and one day I just got really pissed off, right? So a sales rep, and these shared alcoves you can see in the room, right? So I waited for their one-on-one to end for a particular sales rep and his sales leader, and as they were walking out after the one-on-one, I said, "Hey, let me ask you something really quick." And we walked in the shared alcove. I closed the door. I said, Why do you have Excel up there? What's going on? Like, do you not feel like the data in Salesforce? Like, help me understand that. And he basically said, well, when I go into Salesforce and I look up Joe's computers, 6 of them comes up, right? And it's too much time to find the activity history that was integrated into Salesforce for Outlook on when I contacted this customer and had this conversation. So I don't know which one it is, and there's opportunities on this account and that account, and plus I like doing this conditional formatting in spreadsheets to show what is red, what is green, what is yellow in terms of, what's going to be, closed won versus closed lost. And I guess what I took from that, it's a longer conversation, was the comfort level associated with cultural dynamics that support you going down the path of least resistance. So this is about education and training, right? This is about bringing in and saying, here's how you can go through and use other tools. At the time I used a tool called Conga Action Grid to help them support that conditional formatting in related lists within Salesforce. But more specifically, we had to get down to the root of why are there 20,000 customers that, when ultimately the purpose of a standard field and a custom field isn't so that 20 custom fields serve the purpose of one singular standard field. So who has the permission to create fields? It's going to be that stakeholder in that business that's a part of that center of excellence.
Those are all great points. Just getting that sales and marketing alignment around data can be problematic. We typically see that, or I don't want to say typically, we have seen that sometimes there's career risk that gets introduced, that marketing can't touch the sales data or their career is going to be in jeopardy, right? Like, don't you dare touch my account or opportunity. Like, there's a lot of tension. And the other way around, like, marketing's trying to market to whomever and sales wants to get involved, but it's usually marketing to sales where we see a lot of tension. How we get around that is, somewhat self-serving, but typically as a vendor-neutral party, marketing will bring us in and say, hey, look, we brought this party in to look at the data. So they're going to baseline the data and come back to us with what the problem statement really is. And that way, the third party takes the arrows. It's not the people that are in the seats, but even though marketing's kind of like the puppet behind holding the puppet strings and, saying turn left, turn right, or doing whatever. But by doing that, it aligns people on that change management process. So you're really trying to get people to say, this is the problem, this is how we're going to go address it. And it becomes less territorial, at least we have found in the mid-market in particular. We've done that with a couple enterprise customers, but for the mid-market, for the most part, that seems to be a way to get that sales and marketing alignment.